Very excited about this week's featured interview. We have manager, promoter, entrepreneur Thomas Cussins in from Ineffable Music. Here's that interview.
Promoter 101, the quarantine sessions begin all over again. It's like deja vu. Thomas Cussins right here on Promoter 101. Now, if you know the story, shut up and listen and don't ruin it for everybody else. No spoilers. Thomas is a buddy, and he's got an awesome career. And let's pick it up right from the get-go. Let's talk about how you got on Pincus's desk as an assistant, what you learned there, how that all came together. Let's start there.
For sure. So I was managing Collie Buddz, which came out of throwing shows at UC Santa Cruz when I was in school there. Working for Gary Ty at the Catalyst as a booking assistant, which was my first real mentor in the business. And I had done a Collie Buddz tour where I booked it all myself, 29 days and 29 shows in 31 days. So, yeah, I didn't know that artists need off days yet. So trust me, I was hearing about that one on the seventh show in a row, you know.
You had already been an agent. You'd already been a promoter or talent buying assistant at the Catalyst, and you'd already been a manager.
Yeah. So this all happened pretty quickly, but from UC Santa Cruz, me and my roommate Igor threw a party. We were renting apartments to pay for school, and we rented one to a guy that was like, I'm really good at music. I got a lot of friends, but I can't get a show. We're like, well, how hard could it be to get a show? So started calling places, figured out it was actually pretty hard. You know, through our first show, all of our friends came. We were stoked, made like $200. Through a second show, half of our friends came. Through a third show, none of our friends came. And we realized, okay, we got to start booking bands that have their own fans. And that led to bringing out Collie Buddz from Bermuda. And he had just dropped a project on Columbia that was doing pretty well, both in reggae and in hip hop. So we liked the crossover of the genres. And we brought him out for some shows. And as we were working together, Columbia dropped him. And he was like, well, how are we going to make any money? I'm going to have to go get a construction job. I was like, oh, no, man, we'll tour. We'll sell merch. It'll work, you know, no problem. Forget that thing. And I promised him $100,000 if he gave me a month of his time. So I said, I'd pay for everything. I'd make sure, you know, all the transportation was covered, all the shows happened. Just give me a month of your time. I'll pick you up in a Sprinter and we'll go do this thing. So he did it. I mean, I didn't have $100,000, far from it, but I just figured, hey, I got to book as much as I can in this time. Started calling places. Most people didn't want to give me the date, so I rented the club, and we did that tour. And luckily, it went really well. And Pincus actually came to one of the shows and really enjoyed the set, really enjoyed the show. And we kind of started talking from there, and he ended up giving us the opening slot on the Slightly Stupid summer tour that was Stupid, Cypress Hill, and Collie Buddz.
Great hookup.
Yeah, so it worked out. That worked out great. It was a great look for us to be able to see a class act touring operation like Slightly Stupid firsthand and get out there and go to some of these small amphitheaters throughout the country. And at that point, Jason was getting promoted, Jason Kupperman. Pincus offered me the job, and man, it was both the hardest thing I've ever done and also the most rewarding. It was really like my graduate school in terms of really learning who all the major people are that do everything in the business, how if one thing happens over here, it affects something else, you know, trying to figure out when somebody called, what they're calling about before they even told me. And then, of course, deal structure. That's the big lesson from Pincus. So incredibly demanding, but learned the whole business, got to see all the spinning plates from that.
Yeah, now one of the smartest guys in the industry, Aaron Pincus, if you're going to get a front row of the business, it's not a bad place to start your boot camp off by any means. How long were you on Aaron's desk?
It was about 2 years. He'll say it was less than 2 years. I'll say it was more than 2 years, but it's about 2 years. About a year and a half into it, I realized that it was too far away from the show for me. You know, he's putting in 18-hour days. He's working his butt off all the time. After those days, I didn't really feel like going to see a concert anymore. And I didn't want to lose the love, you know, why I started doing this in the first place. So, you know, I told him, I said, I'll stay as long as you need to get somebody else in here for you. This is not going to ultimately be my career, because I just miss the show. I miss being at the show. And when you're a promoter, yeah, a lot of the work is at the desk, but it's also a lot of the work is at the show. And when you're in management, a lot of the work is at the show too. So that was kind of the big thing for me, he was really gracious about it and has since supported me and my business and my clients really greatly and deeply in a lot of big ways. And, he's still on the Collie Buddz team.
Nice. Okay, so you moved back to Northern Cali, Santa Cruz?
Yeah, so Santa Cruz, and then transitioned to Berkeley, where I live now. So
you went back, you were booking at the Catalyst, right?
So I left without any real plan. I knew it wasn't going to be my thing to be an agent. So this was 2012. I left right after South by Southwest. So left Austin, then came back to California. Still working with Collie. I had kind of stepped away from all the management stuff, but still dealing with him on the agency side of things while I was with Pincus. And my partner Igor, who still manages him to this day, he was in on that stuff. So yeah, I came back and we're working on Collie, trying to figure out new avenues, new opportunities. And then Gary Ty, who was one of my big mentors at the Catalyst, he retired, and he had been the only person to ever book the Catalyst for 35 years. And when he retired, they gave me the opportunity, which was great. I think at that point it was a pretty big unknown for them to go with myself versus somebody who'd been in the real hot seat of being a talent buyer for a longer period of time. I said, hey, I'll take a more incentive-based deal and give me a shot, and I'll outwork anybody else you can get in here. So give me a shot, and we did it, and we really moved it from more of the old Gary model, which was, hey, some venue has got to be the lowest offer on the tour. It's going to be me, and focusing on just on trying to hit winners. Gary had an amazing winner percentage. He'd win on almost every show, but he didn't take a lot of shots. And my theory was, and still is that volume business and the clubs really works well. So
you're trying to move beer, yeah,
right.
You can afford to lose a little bit at the door if you're moving enough beer over the counter.
Exactly. So yeah, the Catalyst was kind of the next step in that model, and I wanted to be known there as somebody who would get back to agents really, really quickly. Somebody who would send their offers really fast and just be generally responsive, because I wanted Santa Cruz to be on the initial route for bands. Obviously, that when the RA gives a territorial agent that route, a good percentage of the time, the only markets that are going to be on that route are the ones that on the ultimate route are the ones that were on that initial route handed to the territorial. And I knew Santa Cruz wasn't necessarily on everybody's route. It was, LA, San Francisco, Portland, maybe San Diego snuck in there. And I wanted Santa Cruz to be in there because we had the huge buffer zone of San Jose, 1 million people in between San Francisco and Santa Cruz. So I think, one of the best compliments I ever got was from David Lefkowitz, who said, hey man, like all these routes I'm getting now, Santa Cruz is on there now. So we were very excited to be able to increase the volume there and prove that it was a legitimate market on the West Coast.
No, that's awesome. Well, something you said that you must have picked up when you were an agent's assistant, I was going to be very responsive. That must have been something you learned working for Aaron, because promoters don't learn that as a promoter, that's a thing for a very long time. And you learned that early on.
Yeah. I mean, when I was Pincus's assistant, I was doing his ticket counts daily. So
you know who sucked and who didn't when it comes to that. It's like they're the guys that were sending them out at 10 a.m. and then there's the guys who are chasing to 5 o'clock at night hoping.
Exactly. So I'm calling people. I'm like, can I just get a ticket count? I mean, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I had to just make up the count because I wasn't going to turn in a ticket count sheet that didn't have a number. If Pincus saw a ticket count sheet without a number, he was not going to be happy. So sometimes you got to add 7 and make it up the next day.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I've definitely gotten those phone calls like on my cell phone from the assistant. Like, dude, I need a count. It's like, really? Calling me for a count?
You know this.
Probably when you're not getting it, you're calling me. Okay, cool. It's like, yeah, got it. But no, I think that's got to be a thing you learn early. Customer service in this business matters. How quickly you get back. Even if you say no, making somebody wait for a no opposed to getting to the no immediately. Like making people know that, if they're going to be knocking on other doors, that you're not the guy for them on this. Like that goes a long way. Making somebody wait 3 days or a week for a no, especially when time is running short. Like you get on the fuck you list real quick doing that.
For sure. And Gary Ty, he said, you never know who the person on the phone is going to be one day. So treat them all like the same way. So I mean that never burning any bridges, and that's really helped as people I've worked with, people I was assistants with. I was in the office before I helped Pincus move to Austin. I was in the office there with Chip. I was in the office with Dan and Fred. Jonathan Levine was in there, and other assistants were in there, like Joe Tamian and Sarah Bullwinkle were assistants. Mike Greisch was an assistant. So I was surrounded with this incredible array of talent.
I don't think any of those people are assistants anymore. I think that's your point, though, right?
Exactly.
All right. So you move back, you're booking, you're doing well. Is this when you start to dip your toes into the management world again and taking on some more there and diversifying? Because where Stick Figure fit into the mix?
So that's exactly where Stick Figure fits in. And, I just to backtrack for 2 seconds, I started my business on MySpace. So that was my outlet for reaching people. And when that went under, I realized from that, like, I need to be everywhere I possibly can be. And from working with Pincus, I realized if I wanted to stay independent and be able to make this actually a career, I needed to be on every side of the coin, be able to be in every place and see things from every angle. And so, yeah, at that time, when I was booked, right as I was starting to book the Catalyst, I booked a small festival in New Mexico. And Patrick McAuliffe had booked a Stick Figure and sold them to me. As we were working on that and promoting that festival, he told me, hey, and this guy sold 50,000 records on his own, no manager. It's you really got to check this set out. Like the guy is something else. He's got a crazy business mind. And so I was like, okay, cool. That's great. I've never heard of him really, but give you the solid on this show. Like that music sounds pretty good. Anyway, so I at the festival, I see this guy setting up his merch, and it's amazing. I mean, this is like a 1,200 person festival, and there's this amazing merch setup that you might see at an arena show. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And it was actually Scott Stick Figure. It was him setting up his own merch. We had a great chat. He gave me a copy of his album Burial Ground. And after the festival, I went home, put it in my car because cars still had CD players then. And
hit yourself a little bit. All right.
Yeah. And I listened to it, no joke, 86 times in a row because front to back, nothing had really, really moved me the same way since I got Collie Buddz' first album. Because front to back, it was great. And I started calling people and say, hey, this guy Stick Figure? And almost nobody knew him. And yet he's selling all these records. And, the only people that did, guys like John Phillips, he's like, yeah, he's amazing. Like, it's great. There's only a few people that knew him, but those people that knew him really liked him. So I was like, okay, he hasn't hit his peak because most of these people I trust in this burgeoning American reggae scene don't know who he is yet. So anyways, I call him up, tell him, I was like, dude, we got to meet, come to Oakland, come to my office. Let's really sit down and do this thing. Yeah, we've been working together ever since. He sold out Red Rocks in under 72 hours this year. Hopefully, see what happens with the date, given the times. But it's an incredibly loyal fan base. No radio play, but just really, really strong numbers across the board, especially with repeat listeners. People are going in and just consuming it over and over and over again. So it's been a real blessing. I mean, after working for Pincus, the experience of an independent business like Stick Figures, where everything is controlled internally and there's no middlemen taking cuts of anything at any level, even down to fan club and VIP packages. We're handling it all in-house. It's been a really great experience.
Now you've got a management company that's very successful. You're a concert promoter. You're booking multiple markets. Now you've entered into the festival business too. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so Levitate, which is outside of Boston, is actually in Scott Stick Figure's hometown. And when I signed on to manage him, one of the events that he was confirmed for was Levitate, which at that point was the second annual. So I go through that show, through everything with him on that show. We play the show out. Scott calls me. He's like, man, there was some things that were a little loose, but there is a real spirit here. There's a real support for this event. The team is amazing. Dan and Jess, who are running this event, they really have something on their hands. Like, you need to get with them. You need to start working with them. So I call up Dan and Jess, the founders of Levitate. We had some great conversations. Ultimately, I got involved as a partner in the talent buyer right after that second year. Yeah, now going into our 8th year, that event is now partnered with Live Nation, and sold out the last 4 years. So it's been really, really fun and exciting to be a part of that. In a way, I just right place, right time, because Dan and Jess really had the vision. They understood the kind of grassroots, blue collar work ethic it takes to make an experience. And so I'm over here just chasing experiences, basically. And that's, there's nothing like it. My whole crew comes out that's used to working shows, used to being in the office, and we're out there like, lifting fences and putting scrim on. Even as the festival grew, we spend a week there just really doing the labor and making sure we really feel it from the ground up.
That's awesome. Now, this year you guys have got like solid headliners, including Jack Johnson, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jack was a dream. I mean, the festival was founded out of a surf shop. So
there you go.
Yeah, so I called Tom Shotzi basically every year about Jack, and it finally lined up this year. So it's always been cool to have a festival that gets recognized on a national scale that prominently features reggae. It's got the reggae, it's got the jam, it's got the blues, it's got the indie rock, it's got all these pieces that kind of you would expect to hear from a kid at a surf shop that's controlling the playlist. It's this year's lineup and having Jack, we are very, very excited, and we're just trying to stay flexible given the current circumstances in the world.
But let's talk about some of the other stuff you're doing with some of the other indies. Dan Rankin, I think, is one of the cooler indies coming up in the country, and I know that you've taken an interest and you guys are partnering festivals up here in Tacoma, and I thought that was a unique pickup for you that you guys decided to partner stuff, but you're doing some of that stuff all over the place. It seems like you're kind of branching in all directions. How'd that come to be?
Well, so Dan Rankin, we always really liked working with him on shows up there because we put in that extra personal touch. We had clients play Reggae on the Way with him, some smaller club shows. And he came down and visited us at one of the small festivals that we work on called Dry Diggins in Placerville. And, we were just hanging out and just talking about how to organically grow reggae and roots music up in the Northwest. I think a lot of it for me comes down to what the needs of our clients are, because we did a show actually with Dave Poe at Marymore. We've had clients play there on packages, and it's a great venue, beautiful venue. But as I'm sure you know, if you're an outside person coming in and now you got a 4-wall a venue like that, it's almost impossible for a promoter to make any money. It's almost impossible for the artist to make a reasonable share of gross on a series like that. And in sticking with the very indie kind of cut out the middleman mentality, when it came to shows up there, I wanted to see if I could find an option for our clients that didn't involve needing to be on a package that would make sense at Marymore. Something else that could be in that size that could be a fun summertime event that we could kind of control a little bit more of the ancillaries, really. And so for Dan, it was like, hey, you're doing a great job. We really like everything you're doing. We want to see if we can amplify it on a small scale. It's the same reason people partner in anything, but this is a small scale. It's like we can come in. We have this in-house team. We've been doing this. We've been running this up and down for 14 years now. We can help make the size of the pie bigger for you. Very excited about that. We have a similar relationship with Robert Duderman in Florida, who runs all around Florida, throwing up interesting events. Everything from a big country show to a seafood festival. We helped streamline his operations over there. But again, just a guy we really liked how he promoted our clients. He would get billboards for club shows because he would just make a trade with whoever owned the billboard. He would pass out more flyers than any other promoter we worked with. So, guy we like that, person that's doing a really good job at promoting. So we're like, hey, it's a natural fit for us.
Sounds like a plan. So now Dave Poe comes into the mix, and there's another change. What happened here?
So Dave actually, comes to the reggae side of things again because he was the agent for The Green, a band that we work with that is managed by a gentleman named Kimo out in Hawaii, but under kind of the umbrella of our management company. And Dave was The Green's original agent before he left the agency side and went to be a talent buyer. And so we always really liked working with him again. It was the thing. And when he decided that he wanted to make a change, and leave his current company. He wanted to go out on his own. I was like, man, well, we got you. We support you. If you want to strike out on your own, we will back you to do that. And you have full use of our resources. And yeah, so it was really it was kind of, again, just a person that we really like working with, long relationship. He had this idea to sort of connect independent venues across the country to give us all a little bit more leverage. And that's what we're really fighting for. That's why we continue to expand, is because I just want to be able to have a shot, get my hat in the ring, have my offer considered when there are such giant, amazing promoters. When you got Live Nation and AEG doing tour deals and doing a great job with really strong people across the board, I'm like, how can I have a shot here? I have to be able to be quick, nimble on my feet, not say no, give everybody an option, go to Humboldt County if someone needs something in Humboldt County, even though, I only want to go up to Humboldt County, to go chill in the woods. I don't necessarily want a four-wall show up there, but I'll do it for you if you need the show. And, so Dave's idea was to, continue connecting venues across the country. And he has experience with larger venues. I really like the sort of 300 to 1,000 cap venue. That's my bread and butter. And Dave is more in that, 2,000 to 3,000 capacity. And so he's out there connecting the dots. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But basically, we're just trying to be like a poor man's version of you and Zinc.
God, you should try to be a rich man's version of that. So you guys are partnering in some form, but not on everything? Or is that a full partnership?
Yeah, it's a partnership. He's the principal. It's his baby, and we're supporting him in every way we can.
So it's a JV kind of thing. I like it. So what's the future hold? What's your vision?
Really what we want to do is we want to be able to stay flexible on every side of the coin. We're releasing music. We're going to our friends that are promoters right now, asking if they have live sessions. I've invested heavily in internal staff to do playlist pitching internally, to kind of provide a lot of services that a lot of companies outsource, so that we can basically be a label for our clients. We can be a label for our venues. All of this content that exists out there, we're trying to get it out to people in as many ways as possible. And it doesn't really matter if it's monetized, because the money will come as long as the content is out there. We're trying to be everywhere with merch, with live streams now. We're trying to be able to withstand any crazy big hit to one area of the business, because we're so versatile and in very, very a lot of different areas.
I've been hearing sounds about a space you bought in Oakland. Is it a rehearsal space or studio or office? What is this?
Yeah, so we actually bought Green Day's old studio. So it was called Jingletown, and they now Great Stone Studios. And us at Ineffable and Scott Stickfigure, we bought it together. It's got all our offices up front. We got 22 offices up front, and we got 3 music studios. So I love it, because if I'm on phone and email all day and I'm just like, what am I doing? I can go back and listen to some music being made and remember again why we're doing this. Like, see the creation happen there. So a lot of history in that building. It's also, it's also nice to pay rent to yourself, So
you legitimately own the dirt?
Yes. That's, I think, ultimately we want to be self-sufficient, and that was why we bought the venue, Felton Music Hall, up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, the old Don Quixote's. Fun little 350 capper, just a little gem in the woods, kind of like a Pappy and Harriet's vibe. And that's my retirement spot. I'll go book some 350 cap acts and sip some beers in the mountains.
All right, so we've taken a nice walk through history, and you've been very giving of your time, and I appreciate this, and I really enjoy talking to you regardless if there's an audience or not. But I want to talk about what's going on right now in history. You are an independent business. You are diversified, and you got your hands in a lot of places, and you're invested in a lot of places. With that said, the industry's kind of halted in most cases, especially from the live side. How is that affecting business, and how do you see this moving forward?
Yeah, well, we're not selling tickets right now. That's obviously a concern. I mean, luckily at Ineffable specifically, we planned for bad times. We've never spent beyond our means, dipped into our future ticket sales, so to speak. And, so right now in the short term, nothing changes at the company. Everyone's still there. Everyone's still getting full salary, and that's great. At the clubs, it's difficult, because you got hourly workers that work at clubs. And so we've been trying to figure out ways to help them, getting some funds going to help those folks. Really, right now, we're shifting as much of our attention into supporting our artists by making sure their other two businesses are live, make sure they're doing really good business on their merch, and making sure that they own their masters and they can monetize directly their music. And we're trying to put out as much music as possible, as many collaborations as possible. We actually just dropped the first track from a 21-song compilation that we produced, where Collie Buddz made a beat, and we had 21 different artists make a song out of that beat. And so it's one big compilation, but every artist is tagging themselves and the other artists. And so they're all pushing each other. And that really helps move, get some new eyes on people and move things forward. So, yeah, I mean, right now, as it stands on the club business, what we're trying to do, and this has been, if there's a silver lining in this whole thing, is that I've never before had such pleasant and friendly conversations with agents. I mean, it's amazing. The spirit of working together that we've seen is just a beautiful thing. And I know we're all feeling that, like, everybody's actually working together to make things happen. If we worked at this speed, I mean, we'd be doing twice as much stuff normally, in normal times. So I feel really good that what's happening, that we're going to be able to get through it, and that everybody's banding together to help everybody else in the industry get through it. And I think we're going to see a different landscape. I think we're going to see more indies pop up and be able and come out of this thing. And I think we're going to see some amazing music, because artists are sitting at home working on music. And I'm excited to be able to push that music in one form or another. And I think we also have to, look internally at how we're operating and make sure we're not over leveraging ourselves. As you expand, obviously, there's a tendency to do that sometimes. And I'm very, very thankful that, we've kind of expanded slowly in terms of the moves we've made. Yeah, but really for us, it's about content. And we have a nonprofit arm called Rootfire, which gives zero interest loans to artists to put out their albums so they can own their master. We just did Steel Pulse's album that was nominated for a Grammy on that label. And that platform is doing, live streams, and 100% of the money is going to the artist, or if they're doing well, they're giving it to their crew and band members. And we're just trying to right now, in this time, in the short term, take care of everybody in our sphere and in the associated spheres. And then we want to just come through this thing stronger together with everybody and push forward.
Man, when the fuck do you sleep?
We have a lot of really good people. We've invested all our money in people. So it's actually kind of weird for me right now in this time. It's like, normally I'm rolling from one call to the next, jumping from one thing to the next. And now I'm just sitting back and getting to look at the systems that were built, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and everybody playing ball and everybody wanting to keep dates alive and make things happen. And I'm just, despite the horribleness of everything with coronavirus, there is this sort of silver lining of hope that people are working together and coming together, which I'm trying to focus as much as possible on that.
Well, and there are some silver linings to this. It's like pollution level in some of these major cities has never been so low. Fish are swimming in Venice in the canals for the first time in decades. Like, the things that, Mother Nature's been able to heal while this is going on. The ozone layer is closed up more than it has in 2 decades. Like, this stuff is incredible.
Absolutely.
All we had to do was all forced to be home.
Yeah, and now if everybody just actually stays home and stays away, maybe we can salvage a little bit of summer.
That's the hope. I can't thank you enough for taking the time and talking to us on Promoter 101 today.
Thanks so much, Steiny. Appreciate it, man.
Thomas Cussins right here on Promoter 101.
Dan, what an absolutely amazing interview. I think one of our best ones yet. Thomas clearly on the rise, growing his business, carving out a great space for himself in the Bay Area. Clearly a next level independent promoter, and glad to have him on this podcast.
It reminds